And bring it as high as. How much extra life that brings to the synth lines and the dimension of the movement is just fantastic. What's up everyone, Lucas is here, back again with Solid State Logic, and today we're talking reverb. We're going to have a look at how I've used SSL's Flexverb to add depth and drama to this ambient two-step beat you've just had a listen to. And because we love reverb, and we know you love reverb, Flexverb is now on offer in the SSL web store for only $17.99. So take a chance on finding your new forever reverb for a limited time. Or if you're an SSL Complete subscriber, it'll be ready to download now in your subscription package. But that's enough chat, let's dive in and have a look at how I've set up Flexverb on various elements of my mix. Let's go. Let's jump straight in and have a listen to how I've made my track using Flexverb. I'm going to break it down area by area and starting off with the synths. So first off, let's mute the reverb. Let's listen to the dry channel synth mix, and then we're going to add it in and we'll talk about how the patch has been created. Big, open, washing, modulating reverb, beautiful. Now we've done that by setting up an early room sound, but with a large sort of reflection palette, and then it's sort of modulating into a plate reverb with a medium decay. It's not natural, it's more than natural, it's bigger, it's emphasizing all the elements within that sort of core synth sound. So as we can see here, we've got 4 different types of reverb. We've got our room, hall, plate and our chamber, and then I've got the same controls at the bottom here if I link them, and I can modulate between the early reflections and the tail. And then we've got our section here that sort of modulates and controls the decay of the reverb. We've got our pre-delay, the diffusion and size percentages, the reverb time, and then we've got a modulation section which adds a sort of an LFO, which we can change the speed here, which modulates the depth of the reverb, so we get a real nice movement and shimmer going on. Then, which is really cool, in most reverbs you don't get this, we've got our EQ controls, we've got a 6-band EQ at the bottom, and then we've got our frequency multipliers. We've got a 3-band multiplier where we can add deeper reflection times or sort of extended reflection times for the lows, the mids and the highs, and we've got some crossovers here. So let's have a listen now to the synths when I start playing with these, and you'll hear the difference. And bring it as high as. How much extra life that brings to the synth lines and the dimension of the movement is just fantastic. We've also got the compressor here, and I've got that side chaining the input signal, so I've got a little bit of ducking and modulation going on there. It lets the first transient of those synth movements push through and then give it all space, and it just gels together perfectly. That's it, that's how we're using Flexverb with the synth line. Let's have a listen to that in the entire mix, and I'll A/B it back and forth and you can hear the difference. boosting up the top end and the reverb, and that is only affecting the wet signal. It's not affecting the dry signal. Just allows so much more definition of the synth line as well without smearing the core sound. So that's another really cool way we can use Flexverb just to bring out the life of the synths. Wicked. Cool, let's move on. Cool, moving on, we're going to move on to the drums now. So we'll do the same thing again. We're going to have a listen to the dry drum track, and then we're going to look at the reverb patch that I've created, and then we'll just talk about the settings. Really basic sort of two-step pattern, kick, snare, hi-hat, quite dry, quite brash. It's got a lot of bit crushing going on. So let's see if we can soften that up with the reverb. So let's take that off. And listen to it in the context of the mix. If you've seen videos that I've made before, you'll know I'm obsessed with groove and making the movement between the effects and the dry signal really sort of work together to bring in that sort of rhythm element in the mix. So what I've done here is set up my reverb. The pre-delay is really important on the drums, and the tempo of the track is 132 BPM. So 57 milliseconds equals a 64th sort of section, a 64th note. So that allows the transient to kick in, then we get the reverb tail, we're not getting any masking, and it's just letting, again, let breathe. So we're hitting the transient and then we're hitting the movement, and it's sort of sucking and pulling with that reverb against the dry to really sort of let that drum track bounce. We've done a bit more EQ. I've really sort of high-passed the low end, so I don't want sort of the rumble of this, the lower section of the snare to really do anything modulation-wise, but I have just got a little bit of push to boost any sort of lower frequencies to modulate a bit more. Just gives it a little bit more excitement. And then I've tamed it by pulling down the top end, both with the EQ and the multiplier, just to make sure that we're not getting too much spittiness in the hi-hats. I want the clarity in the snare, I want the sort of nice little transient details on the hi-hat, but because we've got so much high end in the synths, it's just gonna wash out. So we need to sort of fit them in their boxes. So let's have a look now, and we're just gonna have a play again. We can add that modulation in as well if we time that. It's quite a short decay time because we don't want it smeary, we just want that pop, that bounce. Hear that movement. That's it. Simple way to bring a bit of life to some fixed sample drum beat grooves. Excellent. Lastly, we're going to have a listen to how I've processed the vocal. Now, the dry vocal is just a vocal sample I found I've chopped up to make a little bit of a repeating pattern, but it's very much just the same thing over and over. So we're going to use Flexverb to try and bring it to life, bring some movement and some depth to it. So let's listen to the vocal soloed, no processing, completely dry, and then we'll talk about how the patch has been made after I bring it in. You can have a listen to it.
Beautiful dreamer, beautiful, beautiful dreamer.
Reverb.
Beautiful dreamer, what do you see? Beautiful dreamer, beautiful, beautiful dreamer. Beautiful dreamer, do you see me?
Cool, so I've done something a little bit different with this reverb, and I've actually split the reverb into dual mono, so we're working with our left and our right channels separately. Now, I've done this in order to allow for a bit of separation and increase the width, not just through the reverb, but actually just with a time difference. So on our left-hand channel, I've got our 57 millisecond delay, which, as we know, is 132 BPM, is a 64th note, and I've set a long reverb time of 6 seconds. We're just doing, again, a medium plate here. Now, on the right, I've got the pre-delay doubled to a 30-second note, and the reverb time slightly delayed. So we've got like a wash on one side, but with a slight delay, and then a further delay with a shorter time. So hopefully they end simultaneously in a nice sort of trailed case. We don't get a smear left and right. Then what I've done is with the multipliers, I've gone low, mid, high, ascending on the right channel and descending on the left channel. So we've got a brighter swell on the right and a darker swell on the left. This added to the time differences and these EQ movements is just going to allow that vocal to spread wide. It's not trampling all over the dry vocal channel, but it is just moving around it in a really nice halo effect. So now let's listen to this in context of the mix and our A/B with and without the reverb, and you'll hear the difference it just gives to the vocal to lift it within this mix. So we'll start off dry, bring it in.
Beautiful dreamer, beautiful, beautiful dreamer,
And the reverb.
beautiful dreamer. What do you see? Beautiful dreamer, beautiful, beautiful dreamer, beautiful dreamer. Do you see me?
Just lifts it. It sounds almost sort of not there when you sort of have it in the mix wet, but as soon as you pull it out, all of a sudden it's disorientating. The vocal sort of doesn't sit so well in the mix. So that reverb isn't there to be obvious. It's there just to soften the edges around the sample and just let it blend through. Now, eagle-eyed viewers will also see I've added something extra. Now, what I tend to do with vocals that I want to sort of have a little bit more modulation with, I'll put a pitch shifter pre-reverb. So the send into the reverb is getting pitch shifted before it hits the reverb. And I've done the similar left and right trick where I've got, on the left-hand side, we're pitched up 5 semitones, and on the right, we're pitching down 3 semitones. So we're getting a nice sort of spread, and that is only filtering in at sort of 30%, 34%, give or take, on the mix. So we're just getting a little bit of a chorusing effect feeding into the reverb, which is really, really cool. And I'm really enjoying Slate Digital's Meta Pitch for that. So you can grab Flexverb right now for $17.99 during the Valentine's Day sale. Definitely worth checking out. Here's 3 wicked use cases for it within the mix. But if you're an SSL subscriber, it's already waiting in your SSL Complete package for download. So if you haven't played with it, definitely go give it a go. Thank you very much for joining me today. I've been Aziz. I'll see you next time for more tips, tricks, and plugin videos. Peace.